Hi there, my name's Simon Drew, and welcome to the Practical Stoic Podcast, where I give you practical Stoic advice for modern times. If you'd like to see more information about this podcast, or if you'd like to see more of my free resources, just go to my website. It's risetothegoodlife.com. But for now, I really hope that you enjoy this podcast, and if you do, then I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe on iTunes and leave a positive review so that more people can have the chance to listen to this great work. Let us meet with bravery whatever may befall us. Let us never feel a shudder at the thought of being wounded or of being made a prisoner, or of poverty or persecution. These sound like the words of an army general speaking to his soldiers, or of a wartime leader, but they're not. They come from Seneca, a man who was deeply interested in the art of preparation. A man who, in my view, was an expert when it comes to understanding how to properly guard oneself against hardships in life. In the last episode, you may recall that I shared the Stoic view that wealth in the mind is far more valuable than wealth in the hand. I also promised that in the next episode, this episode, I would share some strategies for becoming a resilient person who can face any challenge in life, and this is me delivering on that promise. Well, actually, Seneca will really be the one who will deliver on that promise, because I'll be sharing many of his words with you, so be prepared for some very long but nonetheless amazing quotes. So, before anyone can begin to prepare themselves to deal with life's challenges, they must first have a realization that life is extremely unpredictable. All you have to do is turn on the news and see what's happening around the world to realize that life is no sure thing. What you have right now may very well be gone tomorrow. The health that you experience now may be challenged in a heartbeat. The things that you love can be taken from you at any time, and it's important to know this. Not only so that you can appreciate these things more, but also so that you can prepare for that day when it may all be taken from you. Seneca knew all this when he wrote this magnificent paragraph. Quote, "Terror strikes amid the most tranquil surroundings, and without any disturbance in the background to give rise to them, calamities spring from the least expected quarter. States which stood firm through civil war as well as wars external collapse without a hand being raised against them. How few nations have made of their prosperity a lasting thing? This is why we need to envisage every possibility and to strengthen the spirit to deal with the things which may conceivably come about. Rehearse them in your mind: exile, torture, war, shipwreck. Misfortune may snatch you away from your country or your country away from you. May banish you into some wilderness. These very surroundings in which the masses suffocate may become a wilderness. All the terms of our human lot should be before our eyes. We should be anticipating not merely all that commonly happens, but all that is conceivably capable of happening, if we do not want to be overwhelmed and struck numb by rare events as if they were unprecedented ones. Fortune needs envisaging in a thoroughly comprehensive way. Think of how often towns in Asia or in Greece have fallen at a single earth tremor. How many villages in Syria or Macedonia have been engulfed. How often this form of disaster has wrought devastation in Cyprus. Time and again we hear the news of the annihilation of a whole city. And how small a fraction of mankind are we who hear such news this often? So let us face up to the blows of circumstance, and be aware that whatever happens is never as serious as rumor makes it out to be." End quote. So at this point, Seneca is kind of sounding like a hardcore prepper. He sounds as if he's about to tell us to store a month's supply of water and canned goods, and to prepare to head down to the basement. But what he is actually interested in is becoming a resilient person with a strong and unbreakable mind. I like to call this mind prepping. See, the first step towards becoming a resilient person is understanding that at any moment we may be left homeless, weak, poor, or even dead. Nations rise and fall, financial systems collapse, natural disasters devastate populations, and people make terrible decisions that can take the lives of others. If there's anything that we should have learned since the start of the new millennium, it's that any and all of these things can and will happen at any moment, sometimes with little warning. Seneca also finished that quote by essentially asking us to gain a better perspective on life, one that's more grateful, and one that sees just how lucky we are to have such small problems in our own lives, at least compared to what can potentially happen. Gratitude is one of the best ways to ensure that you can withstand hard times, because it's hard to be angry or upset when you're so grateful for all the good things that you can and do experience. So when should we prepare to face these challenges of life? Well, I'll let Seneca answer that. He says, quote, "In the midst of peace, the soldier carries out maneuvers, throws up earthworks against a non-existent enemy, and tires himself out in unnecessary toil in order to be equal to it when it is necessary. If you want a man to keep his head when the crisis comes, you must first give him some training before it comes." End quote. Seneca's analogy of the soldiers preparing for battle is ideal. We must immediately, while life is calm, prepare ourselves mentally to face any challenge that life may throw our way. If life is easy now, make sure that you're preparing for the times when life won't be so easy. Now, when you have the time and the foresight, you should be learning how to deal with any setback before it's too late. Seneca is particularly interested in preparing to face poverty, seeing as it's something that so many people fear. He says, quote, "We should be practicing with a dummy target, getting to be at home with poverty, so that fortune cannot catch us unprepared. We shall be easier in our minds when rich, if we have come to realize how far from burdensome it is to be poor." End quote. So here's a man who has known wealth and fame and also exile and poverty, and he is clearly saying that there is no real burden in poverty if you will become accustomed to it previously and learn to be comfortable with it. The Stoics have always been advocates of practicing poverty. By doing this, they were able to be extremely resilient, and were far better able to face hard times than most people. Seneca advised the following, quote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you will be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" End quote. This is such great advice, and it's something that anyone can do. It's so easy to set aside one day every month just to only eat one meal or to live in more humble means. In my own life, I practice intermittent fasting very regularly, which, aside from the numerous health benefits that I've seen, has also had an incredible effect on my own mental strength. Going 16 to 20 hours without food is a test of mental resilience, and it's my very small way of getting healthy and also taking part in the Stoic art of rehearsing poverty. Intermittent fasting helps me to keep healthy, save money, and develop resilience. It's a triple threat win. Obviously, I would not recommend this to everyone, and I am legally obliged to ask you to see your doctor before taking part in any dietary changes, but I just wanted to share that with you as something that's been working for me, both as an avenue for health and mental strength. Another great avenue for developing your mental resilience is physical training. Nothing will develop more discipline and mental toughness in a person than hardcore physical training. Becoming healthy and strong is arguably one of the only sure ways to navigate away from hard times in life. Now, sure, you could get hit by a bus even though you're the healthiest person on earth, but presuming that you don't get hit by a bus, the only surefire way of ensuring that you live a full life of vitality is to get your health in order. Finally, one more little idea that I can give you that can help you to become more mentally tough is to take cold showers. This seems like a crazy thing to do, but I've been doing this quite regularly lately, and I can assure you that it's really an amazing way to become mindful about the ways that you face challenges in your life. To stand there and accept that it's going to be cold, but that you're going to get in anyway, is a great avenue for understanding your mind. And like most of your troubles in life, the pain is gone almost immediately. It's only those first few seconds that are tough. That moment when we have to overcome the limitations of the mind. But in terms of developing mental resilience, possibly the best way to remain strong in spite of hard times is by accepting what we can and cannot control. and by understanding the conditions that govern all of us here on earth. Seneca says the following, quote, "The spirit must be trained to a realization and an acceptance of its lot. It must come to see that there is nothing fortune will shrink from, that she wields the same authority over emperor and empire alike, and the same power over cities as over men." There's no ground for resentment in all this. We've entered into a world in which these are the terms life is lived on. If you're satisfied with that, submit to them. If you're not, get out, whatever way you please. End quote. I love this quote because it's almost like Seneca is telling us that when we enter in this world, there is a set of rules that govern all of our lives, and if you can accept that and submit to those rules, then you'll have a great life. But if you don't like the rules, then you should get out. Now, this should not be mistaken as him saying that we shouldn't seek to make the world a better place, because obviously there are bugs in the system that need to be fixed, like racism, sexism, and inequality. But these are all man-made constructs, not natural laws. I'll let Seneca explain that further. He goes on to say, quote, "Resent a thing by all means if it represents an injustice decreed against yourself personally. But if this same constraint is binding on the lowest and the highest alike, then make your peace again with destiny, the destiny that unravels all ties. There's no justification for using our graves and all the variety of monuments we see bordering the highways as a measure of our stature. In the ashes all men are leveled." End quote. This is one of my favorite lines from Seneca. In the ashes all men are leveled. Such a simple way of saying that in the end we all live by the same rules, so accept this and you can live a good life. Sometimes it seems like we are so spoiled, especially in developed nations, and we are prone to complaining about situations that are non-events. We find problems in things that simply aren't problems. In life, there are big problems and there are small problems, and at the same time there are big people and small people in terms of mental strength. Think back to the last time that you had a problem. Was it truly a big problem, or were you just being a small person? Seneca warns us that this is what happens. We live easy lives and then we all decide at some point that things are just hard, and that they are actually problems. He says, quote, "You need to experience pain and hunger and thirst, and grow old and be ill and suffer loss and finally perish. You needn't believe the chatter of people around you. There's nothing in all this that's evil, insupportable, or even hard. Those people are afraid of these things by a kind of general consent. Are you going to feel alarm at death, then, in the same way as you might at some common report? What could be more foolish than a man's being afraid of people's words?" End quote. So the next time you're stuck in an airport for a few hours and you think that you need to buy a sandwich because you've gone 3 hours without food, stop and think. Do you really need the sandwich? Are you actually hungry? Or have you grown up in a world that leads you to believe that going without food is bad? Use this time to practice your mental toughness, and go without for a few hours. The world we live in makes us soft, and if you didn't grow up in poverty, or if you're not in the military, then it's up to you to prepare yourself so that no matter what life throws at you, you'll be mentally prepared. Practice going without. Rehearse poverty. Train yourself. See what could possibly happen in the future and become ready for it. In doing this, you'll be in a better position to accept whatever life throws at you, and you'll be able to handle the ups and downs with equal comfort. Another very important way to prepare for setbacks is by changing the way that you see them. Seneca wrote that, quote, "A setback has often cleared the way for greater prosperity. Many things have fallen only to rise to more exalted heights." End quote. This is a really beautiful way of looking at future setbacks. Life is funny that way. It provides us with challenges, and it's up to us to make of those challenges what we will. One event may cripple a person for life, but to another person that event will empower them to rise up stronger and better than ever before. So what's the difference between these two people? It's all in the mind. It's the way that they see the situation and the meaning that they attach to it. As Stoics, we must practice these seemingly negative events in our mind and in our life, so that when they come, which they will be in a position to capitalize off of them and use them for our own gain. We will be untouched by hardship, for it is only hard if you accept it as such. We will be the masters of our future, and fate will have only a guiding role in our lives. As Seneca has said, fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. It's up to us how we view these events in our lives, and it is up to us what role fate plays. Begin at once to prepare your mind for the challenges that will come. Become an expert in the Stoic art of practicing hardship. And as you do, I'm sure that you'll become a happier, more fulfilled, more resilient person. Someone who sees the joy in life, even in hard times. You will be unbreakable, a true Stoic. Hi there, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I really appreciate your support, and I really hope that I'm providing a lot of value to you through these episodes. Also, I really am so grateful to everybody who's reviewing the podcast. I'm seeing these reviews, and it's just really uplifting to see that people are getting so much value. If you'd like to get in touch with me, then please do so. I'd love to talk to you. If you have any feedback, or if you'd just like to talk about Stoicism, so you can do that. You can just go to my website. It's risetothegoodlife.com, and you can send me an email via my contact page. Otherwise, you can go to my Facebook page, which is either Simon Drew or Daily Stoic Quotes. Anyway, thank you again for listening, and until next time, I hope that this episode has helped you on your rise to the good life. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Practical Stoic Podcast. I really hope that it's valuable to you, and I really hope that it helps you to live a better life. If it has been valuable to you, please don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and leave a positive review. If you'd like to see more free resources, just go to my website. It's risetothegoodlife.com.